next work we're going to look at is called the Pwo Mask. And the Pwo Mask is a mask from the Chokwe people. This is going to be the same, I guess, current country as in Kissi-Kandi, but then Kissi-Kandi was the Congo people, and this is the Chokwe people. They're still part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, okay? But it's a different people group. So remember that as we've talked about masks and cloaks and crowns, that you have to consider the fact that they are part of a larger costume. They are not just standalone objects, that they are part of a full regalia outfit, and that typically they are typically worn by men, but they have this ritual or ceremonial function that's oftentimes witnessed by an audience. And so we looked at the transformation mask from the Kwakwaka'wakw in British Columbia. And we'll be looking at more masks, especially with Africa. So associating that with the performance ritual. Remember that rituals unite, they bring together groups of people. And so this is going to be important for their cultural identity. Right? This is a wooden object. You might be able to tell it's a really dark wood. It has the white around the eyes, which remember gives us the idea that she is transcending to a spiritual realm. Closed eyes, really symmetrical face, okay? The hair is made out of a fiber, and so it has this, kind of like nubby texture to it, quality. This is an ideal form, an idealized form. Remember that if something is wood or fiber, if it's in this good of condition, we can assume, again, that it's going to be 18th, 19th, 20th century. Okay, so we're not looking at something that is really, really old and going to be in this kind of condition. We're going to watch the video for this one because it's a good video and it does a good job covering form, function, content, and context. I know that some of you have seen this piece because you've shown me your pictures, and I've gone to see this work. It is in Washington, D.C. This is at the smaller African Art Museum, not the big Africa Museum, but the smaller African Art Museum, just behind the castle off the National Mall there in Washington, D.C. And so I recommend almost every museum in DC, but this is one where you can go in and see lots of just specifically African work, and they have a really great gift shop too. So we're gonna watch this video and we'll kind of talk through it as we go. Let's see here.
We're at the National Museum for African Art, and we're looking at a mask made by the Chokwe people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this mask would have been danced by a male dancer, even though we're looking at a mask that represents an ideal woman. The masker, who's a man, and the carver, who's a man, would have made this to honor women, particularly women who were young and fertile and had successfully given birth. Because there was an honor in Chokwe society given to those women, and this is also a culture that is matrilineal, that is, the family line is passed down through the mother. And one of the reasons to dance this mask was not only to honor women who were at this stage in life, but also to recognize the founding female ancestor of the Chokwe lineage.
So I want to back up right here. I want to look at this because I want you guys to really sense the and see what very special. You have is not supposed to be realistic. And so if again, if realism is not your goal, then you have more freedom when it comes into how are you going to abstract that form. And so it has this kind of distinct look that the Chokwe used. They would look different based on who the carver is. Again, they mentioned the men perform in the mask. Okay. The men make the mask, but they represent women. And so a matrilineal will give you some context. This is a matriarchal society, okay, or matrilineal society, sorry. And then function, it's supposed to honor mothers, people who have had children. And then it's to honor that idea of their lineage all the way back being from a woman.
It's made of a wood that's very thin and difficult to carve. We see fiber and this elaborate hairstyle. We have to imagine the rest of the costume that would have been here when the mask was danced. And this would have been a tight-fitted body stocking covered in raffia cloth. The dancer's groin area would be covered in a loincloth, and he'd be wearing wooden breasts. And we're using the word dance, but from the descriptions, the dancer walked in a very graceful and stately way. And Chokwe women actually do dance like that. It's very graceful and fluid and slow and respectful. And when we say he's wearing a woman's face and he's wearing a woman's breasts, he's not impersonating a woman. He's really meant to honor women who have courageously gone through childbirth.
So that's an important distinction, because if I said, okay, we're going to look at a mask that a guy wore that looks like a woman, but the guy's wearing it and he's wearing fake wooden breast, right? And he's dancing and walking around like a woman. You would possibly assume that he is mocking her. That is not what's happening. Instead, according to their culture, this is something that's of honor. Okay, so again, this is not something I would suggest trying to recreate. I'm just telling you that it's kind of a different context. This is seen as honor. This is not seen as mocking or cross-dressing.
And retain this inner wisdom and beauty so beautifully articulated in the facial features. And we see that sense of calm in the face. And the fact that her eyes are closed and her mouth is closed suggests a turning inward. She's not talking. She doesn't need to talk. At this point in life, she deserves respect. And she doesn't have to open her eyes wide. She's already knowing. The mask itself is a deep dark red, which was probably created through a mixture of red earth and oil, but there's white kaolin or white powder around her eyes. And this whiteness is connected to the spiritual realm. In fact, her eyes are the most important part of the face. They're abstractly big. And it draws attention to the fact that she has the spiritual ability almost of second sight, that her power comes from being able to give birth. The face is very symmetrical. The chin comes to a narrower point. The broadest part of the face is by the eyes and the ears, this wide forehead that is accentuated by the hairstyle. And we have these constant circles that are bisected by the lines of the mouth or the eyes. And then we also have the circle of the earring and the ear. This mask was obviously really loved. In fact, we can see a repair on one side of the face so that they could continue to use it. We also have pounded dots around the eyes, which further emphasizes their cylindrical nature, but also suggests women's tattoo patterns. Women wore a whole host of different tattoo designs that had special references and special meaning. So the Chokwe people were little known until the earlier part of the 20th century by Europeans. Europeans, in particular the Portuguese, didn't begin trading with the Chokwe until the early 1900s. And so they were...
I want to pause for a second right here and kind of give you an idea. So the Congo is where our Nkisi Kandi came from that we talked about, right? Let's see, Benin, right? This is where the Edo people were, where the Oba was with his coral beads, right? And they were... their palace was overthrown by the British in that British punitive expedition of 1897. Okay, Mali, right up here. Mali is where Genet is. Remember, Genet is the mud mosque that we looked at, the Mosque of Genet, so to kind of help you guys with location to see where we are.
Weren't documented in such in the way that other groups were. However, the Chakwe had been part of a larger kingdom from which they broke away. They had had trading relations with many groups throughout Africa, and so they certainly didn't exist in isolation.
And there are about 1 million today in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And as this mask shows us the ideal woman and the ideal virtues, her hairstyle would have been fashionable at the time, so they could really see themselves in the mask when it was being performed for them.
So this is an ideal of womanhood in so many ways.
So it's important to note also that these were reused. Some masks that are used in rituals are used one time for one specific person and then they're retired. Whereas this would be a mask that would be reused in different rituals honoring women. All right, that's it for today.